This is the Play Your Position podcast, where we huddle up, call the plays, and inspire you to run your ball into the end zone. Are you ready to score more game-winning touchdowns in your life, business, and career? Then listen up, because it's game time, baby. Now, here's your host, Mary Lou Kaiser.
Hello, Team PYP. Welcome to the Play Your Position podcast. I'm your host, Mary Lou Kaiser, author of The River Only Runs One Way and The Far Unlit Unknown, 2 books available at your favorite online book retailer. Go check them out. Make them your companions for the next leg of your journey. As is my tradition here at PYP, I've put together a highlight reel of the conversations that aired this year. Now, this year, I featured 22 amazing guests who each brought their experiences and stories to the leadership conversation so that you could walk away from listening each time with new ideas to consider for your life and business as a leader. Now, if you're new to the Play Your Position podcast, first of all, big welcome from me. This end of the year episode is a special treat because you get to hear the best of each guest in one listen. Now, of course, I encourage you to go back and listen to specific episodes that resonate with you, but for that burst of inspiration and insight, it's really hard to beat the Retrospective show, which is honestly one of the reasons I put this together each year, because I like to go back and listen to it. Now, reflecting on the 2024 episodes of the podcast, several key themes emerge that can serve as focal points for your year-end retrospective. And I know all of you are in the process right now of looking back over this past 12 months and asking yourself, what went well? What could you have done better? And you're also looking ahead and saying, what do you want next? Right? So some of these themes are universally applicable because they never go out of style. But here are some of the highlights. Leadership and personal growth. Many episodes delve into leadership development and personal transformation. For instance, retired Lieutenant Colonel Oakland McCullough emphasizes that leadership begins at home, highlighting the foundational role of personal integrity in effective leadership. Another theme that was talked about by many guests is strategic business development. Blair Bryant Nichols, for example, discusses building your strategic speaking platform, and he offers insights into how to leverage public speaking for growing your business. It's a great episode. The third theme that emerged this year, innovation and adaptability. Boy, are we in the throes of that with the AI revolution in full force right now. We are all needing to innovate and adapt like every single day, right? Chad T. Jenkins, he was the last episode that aired here early December. He speaks on the power of friction to fuel your growth. He is knee-deep into illustrating how challenges can be transformed into opportunities for innovation. Great insights in that episode. Another theme that came out that we can never tire of hearing is stuff about financial empowerment and freedom. Several guests share strategies for attaining financial independence. For example, Tyson Ray's episode on how to fund your contentment provides guidance on aligning financial planning with personal fulfillment. That's a different way of looking at it, and that's one of the reasons why I really like what Tyson is doing in the world as a financial planner. The fifth theme that came out, authentic communication and storytelling, also a timeless topic. The significance of authentic communication is something that you've heard over the years here at PYP because, again, it doesn't go out of style. And my interview with Jeff Barch discussing building confidence and connections through the power of story really underscores storytelling as a tool for building trust and engagement. So if you haven't been utilizing storytelling in any capacity, go back and listen to that episode. And Jeff goes into some of those. So take a listen to that. And then finally, Linda Cohn, a dear, dear woman who I had the pleasure of sharing a speaking stage with at the end of 2023. Her whole platform is about the benefits of leading with kindness, and she advocates for compassion as a core leadership principle. Another fabulous episode, but you know what, team? They're all great. So if you've got time, go back, pick out a handful, get inspired, get fired up for a new year about ready to unfold. And without further ado, let me give you the voices of this year's MVPs here on the Play Your Position podcast. Enjoy and Happy New Year, everyone.
If I'm driving somewhere and I drive into a busy car park, let's say I'm going to fly away I'm catching a flight somewhere. I'm going to be parking the car in the airport and listening to the radio or listening to music on the way in. And then I've got to park the car in a parking space. How many people turn down the music and just go, oh, hang on, I need to concentrate. I need to focus for a bit. And sometimes with us, there's so much noise. There's so much media going on. There's so many intrusions in our life. So being able to have that chance to think about your thinking. So you can't see it here, but I've got a chair behind me. That's my thinking chair. So I do my thinking there. I do my working in this chair. So I have a defined area for where I'm going to think. And that's the chair where I'll sit there and brainstorm. And I won't look at the computer because I'll turn the computer off, and having that moment of silence. And you mentioned Vivid Vision book earlier. He's an advocate of that. If you're going to write your vision, you take yourself off into nature somewhere with no distractions, no phone, and you use a pad and a paper and pencil or pen, and you just think. But that is so worthwhile. Doing all these things where you just force that stop and go, right, you know what? I'm going to cut the noise out and I'm going to hear my brain for a bit.
First, if there's a component of nerves or self-doubt, I mean, that for sure is the primary blocker that people need to figure out a way to get through that. And that can come through coaching, or that can come through different self-reflection, self-awareness, believing in yourself. But once we get through that, from a strictly communication standpoint, when people speak to the left brain of their audience too much, speak to the left brain of the audience, it means you're speaking to the part that appeals to the details, the logic, the strategy. And if we omit the right brain communication, which is the story, the metaphor, the calls to action, the connection, the emotion, if we omit that part, it's boring. And I understand why we do that, because when we're at work, there's a sense of pressure about getting it right. And so we default into a mode that speaks to getting it right. Let me check off my list to make sure I got that all right, and I did it in the time frame that I was allotted. That's not easy to do. And so we slip into a pattern, and we watch other people do this all through our workday and meetings, of speaking left brain.
And I have found that most people, especially if they're in any kind of a giving profession, they feel that it's pretty easy to give. They don't struggle with that. That's, I see a need, I fill a need, I want to be giving, and maybe even sometimes too much, or at the expense of your own self-care. But receiving, how easy is it for people to receive? And overall, like really across the board, I have discovered that most people struggle to receive the kindness of another person. And, I'm not going to go into the details about my own discovery about this personally, but what I realized was we're really in a world and in a cultures where it's less acceptable to take help. You have to admit you're overwhelmed, or you have to be vulnerable when you share. When you share and acknowledge that you're maybe not holding it all together and somebody else is offering to give to you. And what I've also discovered is that when we allow someone else to give to us, we're really letting them give us their gifts. If everybody wants to give, then if you push back on that, you're not allowing someone else to genuinely really serve and do what they want to do. So I encourage people to practice with compliments, because compliments are something that get passed pretty easily. And maybe, maybe you get a compliment today on your shirt or your hair or your dress or your blazer, whatever it is, your hat. I encourage people, when they receive a compliment, to gracefully accept it and say thank you.
I've said a couple things even on this particular podcast. I'm just an honest person. This is who I am. I don't really have much to hide. This is what I've done. Hasn't always been pretty. And, but but that's my mess, and here's my life, and I have some brokenness to it, and that's just how I lead. So we start with that, just trying to be honest with each other, with ourselves. And I think obviously from another biblical point of view is can you have the heart of humility? um you know, that could be in your family, that could be in your business, that could be as a man. And you know, I try to lead with that heart of humility. I don't have all the answers. You're not going to come to our events and Brett's going to have all this amazing, mind-blowing content. I say I'm not going to teach you anything that you don't already know. I'm going to be honest about that. But can we help each other have that heart of humility? Can we literally put other people first? Can we put our clients first, our team first, our family first? Can we put each other first? You know, one of the things I would love to talk about is, wouldn't it be amazing if I could celebrate Mary Lou's success literally more than Brett's success? That'd make you probably pause a little bit if that was a group or that was a world. Now that's hard to do because we're very selfish individuals. But if if I could, if we can learn that heart posture, which obviously is again from the biblical Christ heart posture, if we could learn that, I mean, what a beautiful group, what a beautiful tribe or brotherhood or community that would be.
But you know what, Mary Lee, I'll tell you one more thing about this that I think it might be interesting. You know, part of the flip side of this, you know, you talked about, you know, we would just, you know, we were taught to tough it out. I'm from the same generation as you. And, you know, hey, you know, I played national level football. Like there's no crying on the field, right? You thought, yeah. I was taught, you know, you're not even supposed to sit on the field. You know, if you take a knee, the bum never hits the field unless somebody knocks you down. And so, yeah, I totally get that piece. I think we need to start acknowledging something very important. And I think people in my industry are a little bit responsible for this. This digital lifestyle that we've created, this always on digital lifestyle, has negative physiological effects on us. You know, and I'm going to talk about this in the book. I'm writing about this right now. But you know, the way I look at it, you know, I'm an athlete, lifelong athlete, health guy. We have to start considering that what we put in through our eyes and ears will impact your health and your well-being just as much as what you put in through your mouth.
And so I see so many of my peers just working themselves to the bone and you know, missing time out in their children's lives, missing time in their own lives, and you know, not being able to give themselves permission because of old belief system. But also you can change an old belief system and people want to. I mean, I change my belief systems. Like I'm always in the lookout. Okay, where's that coming from? Okay, that doesn't serve me anymore. It's like a work in progress, but we need to know what to do next. Whenever we get rid of something, if we don't replace it with something purposeful, life will fill it for us.
Part of our philosophy is at some point you have to pay yourself. Some point you have to set some of what you're working aside for you, because if you consume it all, you're going to constantly be consuming it. And that's not going to lead to this funded contentment. And the easiest way to tackle that is not to strap yourself to some budget and just kill yourself to then feel like a failure and then you quit. It's telling yourself the next pay raise you get, half of it needs to be set aside in this 401k or this matching plan, like you never got it. Yep. The work for yourself one's hard because they're constantly dealing with the balancing act of what's profit and what do I owe in taxes and those types of things. It's the same thing though. In those cases, we encourage them that here, let's set aside what we think we're going to owe in taxes. We're going to add a little bit on top of that was what we're going to put away for retirement or for the future, but you have to take it away from yourself somehow. And in those cases, we usually encourage setting up a separate bank account. Don't keep it all in one and set it aside. And then look, when we pay the taxes, this is what's left. That's what we're saving. You don't get to take that and now consume it. So it's separating or never getting it in the first place.
We have a piece on our website called the SEO Delusion, which is, so I think the B2C e-commerce tail is wagging the rest of the marketing world's dog. So again, if you're selling socks, I get it. There's however many sock companies there are. And if you come up near the top, maybe they'll buy your socks. I get that. Low consideration purchase. it is a volume. It is a game of getting a huge volume of people to your website to buy your socks. If you're in professional services and you've got 20 clients, I don't want 1,000 people on my website. I don't want 20,000 people, would be actually not bad. I don't want 25, 100,000 people on my website. I mean, that's pointless. I need the right 5 decision makers to become my next 5 clients. So that's actually a question I'll often ask someone in a new business call is, how many customers do you have? And they'll say 30 or 60 or whatever they'll say. And I said, so you don't need 50,000 people on your website. You need to find out where they're going and create content there and build trust.
Because there's a lot of stuff online that we see that people talk about real estate that we know 100% is not true.
Right.
So, and you, just like in your business, you could read through someone saying something in your industry that's not accurate. That's not the way it's done. Well, if you do real estate, 200 different closings and 43 different companies, you can read through right away, go, well, that's not accurate. That's not exactly how it's done. And it's awesome. So you got to be careful. But I would say it was someone that's done it multiple times. You can verify that they've done exactly what you want to be. And yeah.
We watch, I mean, social media, I mean, the influence of social media, but like when you're watching short form content, you can watch it and you go, gosh, that guy's the guru, or he's got this figured out, he's got that figured out. But what we've done is like, we'll try and find them in long form, or we'll actually go to some of their seminars just to see exactly what's there. A lot of times we'll leave the long form content, or we'll leave one of those seminars and you go, I guess we ain't such big dummies anyways. We kind of got it figured out, and there is no, there's no tricks to anything. It's just really digging in to find the people that have done the things that you want to be doing. And that's huge.
Yeah. And at the same time, there's no silver bullet, man. There's no, we can't, coaching is not giving someone a roadmap, like take this turn, do this, and then you'll get into financial independence. It's a flowing situation. We can give you a head north, but you still got to take your own path.
You just need to really get a reality check if you're using AI for content. All right. And most of the AI that's put back for content is a laundry list of stuff that I joke that if you're using AI for content, you're writing stuff that nobody wants to read. Right. So somebody told me, she facilitates this women's leadership group. And she goes, some of my women leaders are using AI to write performance reports. I said, yes, it's another example. You're writing something you don't want to be writing for somebody that doesn't want to read it. All right. So I think that is a very misplaced use of AI. All right. So where I am excited about AI, I use AI in all different parts of my business, and it's mostly for data parsing. And it's fascinating when you can take vast amount of data and you can find information out very quickly about it. And I don't really want to go into all the different ways I use AI in my business, because I want to talk about one specific application.
And it hasn't changed too dramatically in, my 17 years or so in the industry, but it has evolved a lot, obviously. So now, after the pandemic, virtual events are not the one dominant thing, of course, but they still exist. A lot of companies obviously saw how easy it was to, book a speaker maybe for an ERG or, an employee group that isn't the entire company, and they've got people in all different offices. So there's a lot of people who need, I don't want to say low budget, but speakers who don't demand a high fee to do a lot of educational meetings like that and doing it virtually. But, you make $2-3 grand for an hour, it's not a bad return, for a speaker. And you're at home, so a lot of times the price goes up because you're paying for the travel, you're paying for this speaker's time on the road. And now I think, people just recognize that virtual is an option. It's still a great way to do some things, but there is, still the desire to have big speakers, popular speakers, and dynamic speakers for events, because of course they're still hosting in-person events. Those didn't go away. They're back. There's, that industry I think has grown.
I would start with this before we get into the KPIs with any business, or even talk about that. If I was sitting down with somebody, I would say, define your mission. And I know you talk about this a lot. when you were talking about 11 leadership traits, and thank you for sending that out, by the way. I got a lot from reading that, but I agree with every one of them. But that's the one, is define your mission, because when you actually get going, no matter what we say or what expertise you bring in, I think Mike Tyson said it, plans go out the window when you get punched in the face. And when that happens, it's you have to fall back on what's the mission of the company. And we talk with our employees all the time about that, of, what's our goal? And it's always to be responsive to the client, and ask yourself, are you helping the client? So that's our mission. My point is, all sorts of things can happen. All sorts of things can go wrong. You've got to be able to go back to your mission, and that can drive the decisions that are in front of you when you're under a lot of stress.
If I want to write a mediocre book, I will call on ChatGPT. That's my feeling. The tools are amazing. The things they can do are astonishing. There's no question about that. And obviously, there's a lot of fear about them. But typically, the people who are afraid of ChatGPT, were afraid of something else 2 years ago, and something else 5 years ago, and something else 10 years ago. It's just the latest thing to latch fear onto. My attitude is that, it's a tool, and tools can be used for good or evil, and it'll shake out at a level above my pay grade. In terms of what I do, my unique ability is not so much writing, it's listening. And it's listening with love, and it's listening for the things that the client is not quite saying, but wishes he could or she could say.
We've done everything from AI engineers and architects all the way down to basic virtual assistants doing data entry. So it really is what the business needs and what their current pain points are. I always say, though, I just want to be able to help the small and medium business owners, especially like in the States, because I feel like they really get the short end of the stick between the taxes and the regulations and just everything else that comes into play. The large corporations, they've got tons of lawyers that get their way around it always, but it's the people who are actually the backbone of the Western world in America, they just continually get the short end of the stick. And as much lip service as a lot of people pay, oh, that's the backbone of the economy, at the end of the day, they just seem to always get shafted. So that's where we're giving people a good job. It's a great opportunity for people from this world, and we actually get to help a business owner out too. So that's what, like you said, playing matchmaker, it's both sides are winning, and that it feels pretty good, actually, I would say.
When you depart from something that you've been doing for pretty much your entire life, it does take some time to just take a minute and reflect back and breathe again. And I've had, again, this great fortune to have that year to really think back, and the wine industry is such an amazing industry. And again, when you're immersed in something, you're kind of just doing it and your head's down and you're just like, go, go, go. But then you move out of it and you go, geez, that was pretty amazing, right? You get to drink beautiful wines. We live in the country, so we have these beautiful rolling hills. We have delicious food, you travel to beautiful places. Okay, it is like this, it's this amazing lifestyle. So why would you ever leave it, is what I was like scratching my head, like, what the hell did I just do? But there's reasons for all that. But I think, so the reflection piece was, what have I got from here? So you grew a business, it was successful, and you did a great job. Great, check. But more than that, what else are you taking away from the majority of the life that you've spent in that industry? And I really started focusing on the fact that wine has taught me so much about just being intentional.
We look at burnout often as like the hours we work, like too many hours. That certainly was the case for me. But when I was home, I wasn't present. I was thinking about business. I was thinking about, so even when I wasn't at work, I was consumed with, how do we launch this new product, or how do we scale? Because we had finally hit this kind of momentum in the company where the brand had become a national brand and was making an impact. We were 6 years in business, and we're really seeing some amazing outcomes. But then internally, I was just way consumed with it, and was not, and balance is not a word I use anymore. And, because I think it's a myth, But even if your 70-80% of your time needs to be in your business, that 20 or 30% when you need to be home and present should be home and present and not in your business. So I was 110% in my business, I think, with my time.
That's actually how I started the business. I was recording myself, finding these stocks and making my money back. And people start asking, like, how did you know to pick that stock? Can you teach me, etc. And so I end up going on to, start Power Trades University. When people say, well, what style of trading is this? I'm like, well, it's swing trading or power trading. Like I find the chart, and then I put a lot of power behind it. Meaning I use a lot of money or I use a lot of options to control a lot of shares. And so the reason I'm sharing that story, I think is important for people to know. It just wasn't smooth sailing off into the sunset, number one. Number two, if you look at my Zoom picture that we have up here, that's one of the principles that came out of it, is that you never go broke taking a profit. That's one of our slogans, because I was actually up $100,000 in that trade. But I said, because it's not $500,000, it's not enough. And I wasn't grateful for that 100,000. And then I ended up losing the 100,000 and then blowing the rest of my account.
Oh, one of the biggest challenges actually is people are so familiar with their own life that they don't realize what they have in their own life. They don't realize their own experiences, because as a friend of mine says, what's ordinary to you is amazing to others. And so many of my clients, they say, well, I don't really have any epic stories to tell. I don't really feel like I have any stories worth telling. And I'm here to tell you, if you are alive and breathing, you have stories to tell. And here's the crazy thing. They don't have to be epic. In fact, some of the most powerful stories that you will find are not epic. They are 100% normal. They are pedestrian. They are everyday. Why is this? Because we all experience the normal everyday thing. This is how you can say, oh, you get it. I understand. You live this life. So do I. I feel a connection, that kind of a thing. It doesn't have to be epic. And everyone, you listening, you talking to you, you have stories to tell, and they are incredible when they are crafted in the right way and delivered in the right way to the right people for the right reason.
Yeah. So I think being on the right platforms is a great place to start, and not trying to be everywhere. So thinking about two things: where's your audience, and where do you feel, again, authentic, comfortable to share? I think LinkedIn is the obvious choice for business networking, but then it depends on your brand. How old is your audience in terms of, are they on TikTok or not? Do you have a visual brand for Instagram? Can video be part of your strategy? I think that's a really important part of, where we're going. People love short video clips, even if it's just to introduce, for example, to introduce a podcast, you could have a short clip of the conversation as a way to spark interest. And I think the sort of looking beyond those online platforms to podcast conversations and keynotes and, thought leadership content and publications, just to kind of reach new audiences. I think you often build a community on a platform like LinkedIn, which is wonderful, but you're talking to the same people. And if you want to get your brand out there, it's really going, where else can I talk to like-minded people? Being part of, organizations and communities, again, in real life, if you can, just is a wonderful way to tell your story. And I think if you believe your story, and if it's something that you have your heart in, like we were just talking about, it's so much easier to get people to resonate with it. I really found that when we launched Dapper, where I really love what we do and the value that clients get from the process we take them through. So when I talk about it, I light up. I don't have to sell, because it's authentic. It's something that a lot of people don't realize they need, but once they understand it, they're like, yeah, I should totally invest in my brand.
The place where we most often meet clients is when they feel like, the best word I can use for it is stuck. And what I mean by stuck is they have gotten to the $3 million phase, or they've gotten to 5 million, and their team is 25 people. And all of a sudden it's just like, man, we can't seem to get past this point. right? And it's a really good indicator of hitting the complexity threshold where all they feel like they do is put out fires. And so that's typically an indicator of, okay, now it's time for us to actually systematize and slow down and simplify as opposed to get more complex. And so we often meet people in that, hey, we've gotten to a certain point and we can't figure out how to get to the next one. Right. And that's that kind of stuck feeling. And or the other stuck feeling is they're dealing with so many fires that it feels like they're moving backwards. Right. Some of the clients that we have, I just refer to them as on fire. Right. And we go into firefighter mode a little bit before we go back into architect mode. But that firefighter mode is, all right, you've got some serious problems going on. Let's make sure you're good and safe as a business first. And now let's simplify and structure.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that. So this friction that you could, and again, this will be very easy to do. The frictions that you recognize are things that are pissing you off. They're aggravating you. They're getting your way. Oh, if they just get out of the way and let me do it. Awesome. Write it down. But the way in which you write it down, which of course would be probably not super positive, how can I change this into a positive? What would have to be true for it to be a positive? Now you have vision of it existing, but in a much better state. Yeah, so what would have to be true for this to be much better? And you probably have an inkling of this. The reason I asked that specific question is to get a little bit more out, because it's very helpful when you ask the next question. Do I have the capabilities? And the S stands for strengths. But do I have the capabilities, or does somebody I know have the capabilities to make this a reality? And I hope it's somebody else. I'm not sure how many listeners have read the book, but it's a wonderful read by Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy. Who, not how. For me, and I'm stubborn to have to make it practically applicable, nothing new without a who. So anytime I write anything down, I'm looking for someone else's initials to put after this new thing. Because if you guys are wired up anything like I am, I have plenty of ideas of how to make things better. And the list can get daunting. Not anymore, because my list has 2 columns. It's the thing, the vision or the awareness that I have, the potentials, plus or minus, and then who the heck is going to take care of that or do it for me or going to collaborate with me.
Yes, people ask me that all the time. And I say, I named my book "Your Leadership Legacy." So, what does legacy mean to you? And to me, it's a 2-part thing. It's like you said, it is part of what you actually do, because in the real world, results do matter. So about 20%, I would say, is what you actually did as a leader in your organization, where you took them, all the things that you were responsible for. The problem, if you tie all your legacy to that, is when the next boss comes in, the next leader comes in and changes everything, there goes your legacy. So a small part of that. The biggest part is the people you leave behind, the impact you made on other people. And in my opinion, it's, as a leader, it's those next generation of leaders that you produce, who then produce the next generation of leaders and the next generation of leaders. Because I really do believe that quote that Master Sergeant David Powell said to me one time: great leadership handed down from generation to generation is what develops great nations. And the most powerful part of that quote is you can take that word nations and you can substitute anything you want out of that: family, business, hospital, food bank, whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change the power of that at all, because we all need good leadership.
We all need good leadership. Oak McCullough summed up an amazing year of conversations at PYP and what this podcast really stands for. As you just heard, leadership and the leadership conversation is so much more than talking about strategy and business plans and big visions. It's about overcoming self-doubt and being willing to show up when things are hard, and being kind to yourself and to others. It's about being willing to take risks. It's about knowing when to take some time off to recharge reflect, reevaluate where you're at, what you're doing. And as we head into a new year, team, my wish for you is that you take some time in the coming days to reflect, to reevaluate, and to recharge your batteries so that the new year is truly your best year yet. As cliched as that sounds, I believe better is better. That's my campaign slogan for the new year. And I pass that along to you, along with ultimately the wisdom of my guests here at the Play Your Position podcast, who take their time to come and sit down with me and have a conversation and share their vulnerabilities, their wins, their losses, their insights about what it takes to succeed in a complex world. And it's only going to get more complex the deeper into the 21st century we get. We're barely scratching the surface right now of the artificial intelligence revolution. And as you heard, some of my guests mentioned, AI is here, and we have to be critically thinking about how we use it, when we use it, what we use it for, and most importantly, not pretend that it doesn't exist. So, again, I wish you the best new year and look forward to seeing you on future episodes of the Play Your Position podcast. Remember, team, it is always, 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 always a great day to get out there and play your position. This is Mary Lou Kaiser. We'll see you next time.
Got a great key offensive strategy you like to share? Write to us at coach@pyppodcast.com or on Twitter, use #PYP and let us know how you're running your ball into the end zone for those game-winning touchdowns.